culture at Shopify is a lot about thriving on change, being absolutely okay with ambiguity, because we strongly believe that if we took a decision yesterday and today, if we get more information and that means that decision that we took yesterday needs to change, we'll go ahead and do it.
Welcome to Prime Venture Partners Podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs looking to build and grow their startups. Learn about uncommon strategies and common traps from makers and doers of startup ecosystem.
Welcome to the Prime Venture Partners Podcast. Today we have with us Vargab Bakshi. He was the first employee in Shopify India and is now a lead in the international partnerships team at Shopify. Welcome to the show, Vargab.
Thank you, Amit. It's great to be a part of this podcast.
So Vargab, what a rocket ship that you're on. I remember this quote from Sheryl Sandberg, right? That when you're offered a seat on a rocket ship, don't ask what, right? Just get on it. So can you talk us through how you got into Shopify a little bit, and then the first few years? I believe you started in 2014.
That's correct. I've always been passionate about e-commerce and the internet industry. I started my career at Google. I was looking for a gig where I was able to help small businesses succeed online, because early 2010 there was Flipkart, Amazon already starting to do well. And it was quite evident that e-commerce is going to pick up. And Shopify got my attention. It was a Canadian company, and they had no footprint in India. Just around that time, a company called Singapore Telecommunications, Singtel, became the go-to-market partner for Shopify in a few countries of Asia. And I reached out to Singtel, and I started working for Singtel Shopify. In a few months, Singtel Shopify's relationship dissolved, and I wrote to the COO of Shopify, Harley Finkelstein, and who's now the president. And I said that I really want to work with Shopify directly. I'm very passionate about the purpose that you guys are on, and how can I be a part of the rocket ship? That's how conversations got started, and here I am today.
Wonderful. It leads me to an interesting tagline that I've seen about Shopify, where I think you guys say that everybody in the world is an entrepreneur, and in particular can run their own business and their own store. So can you talk a little bit about the purpose at Shopify and how you guys think about the world?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like Facebook is a social media company and Google is known for its search, Shopify would love to be known as an entrepreneurship company. Almost half of the people who who are on Shopify have started their entrepreneurial journey with Shopify. And we take a lot of pride in that, because we help so many people become financially independent, find their freedom, and create jobs and make better economies. Shopify takes a lot of pride in helping small businesses come online, helping people start businesses. I think that really, really motivates everyone working at Shopify, because we are here for a purpose, is to help the small guy. We are empowering the rebels in many ways. We think retail is going to be in the hands of many more people than what it is right now, which is in the hands of few behemoths. I think it's super important for companies like Shopify to exist, because companies like ours enables the small guy to become big in the internet world.
Great. So can you talk about some examples in particular in India and perhaps South Asia, where you worked in the last 6 years, of stories that are very interesting or intriguing or even sort of hard to believe, of people who went from not having any presence or doing e-commerce to really riding on the Shopify platform and doing amazing things?
Sure. So there are two kinds of entrepreneurs that we generally cater to. The first, most prime one would be a merchant. So Shopify is a platform which allows someone to sell a product online. The person selling it, we call them merchants, often called as sellers in India. So that's one type of entrepreneur that's on the platform. There's another type of entrepreneur which are Shopify partners. These are mostly agencies who are very strong in technology, the developer community who are building plugins and apps for the Shopify App Store. So there are stories from both sides of the world. There are many merchant stories. which I like personally. One of my favorite brands is headphonezone.in. They're a Bombay-based company who sell headphones. The website is very beautiful. They've got a lot of community building activities that keep happening. There's a storytelling aspect to direct to consumer businesses, and that's super important. And I think Headphone Zone has done a great job of that. There's also another company called Alicia Souza, who's a popular social media influencer, influencer. So she does great illustrations, sells products, and her designs on calendars, mugs, diaries, and a lot of other gift items. So these are two of my favorite merchants from India. I'm also an avid shopper from Raymond, and Raymond's on Shopify. So I do shop from there as well. From the partner side of things, there are thousands of stories there as well. We've seen so many of these small dev shops, software companies of 10 to 15 people building $1 million businesses based out of India. Most of those companies are not just catering to merchants in India, but also catering to merchants in the US, UK, Australia. So India's always been very popular as an export hub for software services. We see that same behavior in the Shopify ecosystem as well. So techies, even working in big software companies, do side hustles and help merchants in the US start their online business, or digital marketeers who probably are even high school dropouts but are great in what they do in terms of digital marketing, helping entrepreneurs scale their businesses in India and globally. So there are fascinating stories. There are a couple of blogs as well that you'll find on the Shopify blog, which talks about these stories, how they became $1 million businesses, and how they found purpose in helping entrepreneurs across the world.
Fascinating. So, one of the questions I have is, for the little guy, as we're calling them, right? People who are running these Shopify stores from zero to $1 million and so forth. Compared to the large, kahunas like the Amazons and the Flipkarts of the world, getting traffic is as important a part as kind of running your e-commerce store and doing merchandising and discounting and logistics and everything, right? So how does that work in your experience with respect to all these entrepreneurs that have come on and set up their Shopify stores? How are they able to attract customers and basically get the marketing sort of channel going?
That's a great question, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges that any new entrepreneur faces. That how do they drive traffic onto their website? And the ones who are successful actually go on to become big businesses. The ones who fail are, they die eventually. So the big differentiator for D2C brands that are successful would be, the idea of storytelling and the idea of content marketing and executing that really well. So companies that are doing well on Shopify really understand how to connect with their buyers well, and to figure out channels where their buyers are hanging out and going hard on those channels, whether it is Instagram or Facebook or whether it's TikTok. It, it's very important for the merchant to understand where their customers are today, what their behavior is, and you know s- have that powerful storytelling to make sure that consumers start believing in them and making a purchase. I think the basics of e-commerce would be the same for an Amazon, a Flipkart, or even the small merchant. So the checkout experience or the cart experience, or the overall the website speed and optimization, all of these basic things obviously will remain the same. But what really distinguishes a small brand is the story, and how they differentiate themselves against any other brand in their category.
And how important, that classic triangle that I think is at least attributed to Jeff Bezos, right? Which is the value, convenience, and selection. Like these are the three kind of cornerstones for e-commerce. Is there something similar that you think for the smaller merchant, or is the same thing applies plus storytelling, or do they, does the assortment or the selection of products is also very important of what you should go do on your own as opposed to a larger aggregator?
I think we've seen various kinds of entrepreneurs. I've seen the cautious ones, first go through a proof of concept. So there's nothing wrong in selling on an Amazon or a Flipkart. So I've seen people do a proof of concept on Amazon, and seeing if their products are seeing traction, and then coming up, with let's say a story and selling it on their website directly. So the concept of value, convenience, selection, all of this definitely does apply to any e-commerce business. But entrepreneurs on Shopify probably first do a few experiments, try and sell on Facebook or a WhatsApp. Social commerce is becoming so popular, so they go through certain proof of concepts, whether it's through social commerce, whether it's through marketplaces, and then eventually lead to their own website where they start selling directly.
Great. Uh, how about you were mentioning earlier about this flywheel, right? Of what then you start, obviously you experiment whether it's on some other platform or Shopify itself, and then you can what gets the velocity and the momentum going for some of these folks.
Um, the Shopify flywheel is one of my personal reasons why I love the company so much. So it's a three-sided platform. So there's merchants, there are partners, and there are buyers. So merchants basically are the ones who are selling the platform, and buyers are the ones buying it, and partners are the one who are helping the merchant to start their business, grow their business, scale it. So this flywheel where partner is helping a merchant, and the buyers are giving feedback back to the community. So this self-sustaining flywheel is a big reason why Shopify is so successful. To be honest, you can find a few IIT guys and get them in a room and help them make a Shopify like software. It doesn't take a lot of time. But what really differentiates us is this community of partners that we have built, who are closely working with the platform and enabling these merchants time and again. So this relationship is actually acting as a business moat for the company. So even if one starts a software today like Shopify, um, and considering, let's say, it's better than Shopify, it'll still take them years to build a partner ecosystem and build this community, which is one of the strongest pillars of the company today.
Let me ask a sort of catch 22 question. How did you guys get your own partnership flywheel spinning, right? Because to get partners, you need to have enough merchants, right? And then for to have merchants, they need to have enough buyers, and so forth. And often when we talk to startups and we work with some of them, we often say, look, solve the core problem first, right? In this case, I would imagine it would have been merchants for you guys. But was there like a tipping point where the partnership angle really helped further accelerate it?
Absolutely. I think in the early days we decided that we are going to build 80% of the product, which pretty much would apply to everyone, and the rest of the 20% we're going to leave it to partners and developers to build plugins, apps, customizations, because commerce is very different business to business. So every business has its own tailor made kind of requirements. So that is why apps and plugins become very important, which is why right in the beginning we understood that we are going to continue building 80% of the features which are going to be core part of our platform, and the rest 20% would have to be built by partners. Also, we realized that a lot of merchants need hand holding. Not everybody is very savvy with the do it yourself way of doing things. That is why there's a do it for me, DIFM is what we call it, way of doing things, where there are agencies, web developers, freelancers, website development experts who sign up as Shopify partners, and they provide all the hand holding to merchants who are not able to set up their own website or not able to execute digital marketing strategies. So this ecosystem plays a large role in the merchant enablement side of things. So instead of owning the services side of things in house, we decided to be a product focused company which is going to make 80% of the features which everybody in the world wants, and the rest of the 20% would be built by partners across the world.
Yeah, I think that's pretty foresighted, and clearly will be a big important element of your moat, as you've sort of correctly kind of pointed out. Um, is this DIFM, right? Do it for me kind of mentality. Is that sort of global in nature, or is it more small merchants, or it's more geographies, emerging ones like India and maybe Africa or LATAM, or like, can you talk a little bit about this DIFM?
Sure. India is definitely a DIFM economy, but where so we have a guy for everything, right? I mean, how many times in the US have you seen somebody having a chauffeur or somebody having, let's say, two or three maids at home? Here we have a guy for everything, right? So we are culturally very DIFM. But if you leave aside India, even in the US, UK, and other developed countries, we see that merchants need to focus on things that are most important for their business, which will probably be selecting the right products, figuring out the pricing strategy, figuring their go to market strategy or their digital marketing strategies, their storytelling approach. So those are more important things. The technical things, let's say, like building a website or doing some customizations, those can be outsourced to a partner very easily. So the idea is that you don't really need a technical team to build a big e-commerce business. You need to be really good at the business and your products and your customer experience.
And how is the merchant then, or not merchant, I mean the person running the store, right, dealing with all these different partners and sort of, because you're running a live business, right? Everything matters, right? In terms of like uptime, merchandising, promotions, blah blah blah, and logistics, all of these things that are perhaps loosely coupled together. Is, kind of, where does the buck stop in terms of for day to day operating one of these businesses?
So yeah, it for someone who's like a one person company, it can become hard sometimes, especially when the business starts getting dozens of orders in a day. So we see a lot of lean companies on Shopify. So they could be like solo entrepreneurs or less than 10 member teams, one person looking at logistics and the operation side of things, one, two, three people looking at customer support, a couple of people looking at digital marketing, and some of the stuff which needs to be outsourced, especially the technology stuff, can be seamlessly done. um, I'll give you another example, right? So let's say if one of these companies, online companies, wants to start a referral marketing program tomorrow. Now if they were not on a Shopify, they would probably have to hire a developer, spend, let's say, 50,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees to get a small plugin made, and it would also take them more than a month for that plugin to be built. Whereas if you have a ready-made plug and play model through the Shopify App Store, it'll probably cost you, let's say, a couple hundred rupees a month, and you're able to start using that product in less than 1 minute. So not only has it reduced your go to market time, it also allows you to experiment a lot, instead of hiring and scaling your team and realizing later that those are positions that don't need to be there long term in the company.
Got it. Switching gears now, you also mentioned a little bit about social commerce, right? So can we kind of double click on that a little bit and try to unpack that? What are some of the trends that you're seeing with respect to social commerce? How do these things intersect with respect to a standalone sort of merchant store versus social commerce versus, earlier actually you mentioned storytelling. I want to kind of pull that apart a little bit as well. So maybe let's start with, what are you seeing in social commerce?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the whole world is on social media, and it's imperative for merchants to be where their customers are, and that's why social commerce is a no brainer. So we've seen a lot of merchants who start selling through a Facebook page or an Instagram profile. And in India, we've even seen people selling widely through WhatsApp, a reason why companies like Meesho have become so popular, or Glow Road for that matter as well. So we've seen a lot of these, social commerce behavior amongst Indians, especially because trust is something which isn't easily built, through websites in India. It's built through people, and that's why the social connect becomes important. So if I know you, Amit, personally, and if I come and sell you a product, you'd probably have more trust on me than a website that you've probably never heard of and just found it, through a Facebook ad. So that's where I think the concept of social commerce comes in, because there's people involved, there's trust on that person, and there's a direct face to a name kind of a thing. I think this is going to be a bridge till the market matures enough to start selling on websites. But I do see that selling over WhatsApp or selling over a social media platform is going to be quite popular in the coming years as well.
I remember that you guys had announced a deeper partnership with Facebook globally sometime middle of last year on the Shopify stores on Facebook or something like that. Can you talk a little bit about that? And do you think that's a direction that will happen, that over time, you could do a Shopify store on, Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest or Etsy or whatever, right? Like, do you think that these, platforms will sort of become partners by themselves, if I may?
Yeah, so Shopify acts like a back end to all of these platforms. So a merchant would want to start selling across their Facebook shop, their Instagram shop, and maintain their inventory, their orders, their customer information on the Shopify tool. So think of Shopify as like a multi-channel platform that allows you to sell across all of these platforms, social media platforms. So the Facebook shops integration was obviously a very pivotal one, because the world is on Facebook, and a large part of marketing for merchants is dependent on Facebook. So as Shopify and Facebook came together to launch this integration, it was super important for merchants to kind of leverage it and grow their business further on Facebook. And the best part is that you're able to manage everything just through one platform, which is Shopify.
Understood. Let's say you're a tech entrepreneur in India, or for that matter globally, and you want to serve a similar audience, which is to say merchants or e-commerce vendors or e-commerce SMB shops. And you could obviously do that as a Shopify partner, or you could even have some new and novel offerings to these things. What are some thoughts that you have in terms of opportunities that are open and things that people should be more careful about as they go about building their business, serving a similar customer base?
Are you talking about partners serving merchants, and what are the opportunities for Shopify partners?
Yeah, that is one angle. And then more broadly, entrepreneurs coming up with their own new products, right? In general, right? Nothing to do with Shopify,
Right.
but serving a similar kind of base. For example, what if I wanted to be a SaaS company giving analytics services or channel management services to vendors, to merchants like the kind that you're serving? But that could be across, like multiple platforms. It could be across Amazon, Flipkart, and Shopify, right?
Got it.
Stuff like that.
Got it.
Eh,
So that is a big part of our platform, and a reason why we are so successful is the Shopify App Store. And like I was mentioning, how the plug and play model works. So for partners who are, for companies, product companies who are looking to or already building softwares in analytics or marketing, customer support, sales. So it's a great way to integrate with Shopify and acquire businesses through Shopify. So Shopify has over 1 million merchants across 150 countries, and all of these businesses are looking for great softwares. And these softwares could be vertical specific, function specific, or even regional specific. So by vertical specific, so let's say fashion brands probably are looking for certain VR, AR kind of experiences, which leaves opportunities on the table for tech entrepreneurs to make a product and then cater to that specific verticals problem, and solve it through software. There are similar other categories like jewelry and home decor, electronics. So all of these different verticals that are there, and each of them have their own set of challenges which can be solved by app developers. There are also function specific softwares on the app store, which are which help merchants market themselves better, or provide better customer support, or help them increase their sales, or do better business analytics. So I've seen hundreds of companies who have first let's say built a product, are catering to businesses in India, in the US, etc., and then they slowly start understanding that if they integrate with platforms like Shopify, that's where they really start scaling, and they easily move to a few thousand installs in a few months, and then they get so much better feedback, and then they create a loop that allows their product to develop further. because there's Shopify's communities are very active, and the feedback loops are very strong and positive. So it allows companies to grow much faster, not just from an acquisition standpoint, but even from a product development standpoint. And the region specific solutions, right? So let's say you build software that probably works. There's 100% product market fit for India, but it needs a little tweaking. The same software needs a little tweaking if you go a little more east, let's say Singapore and other Southeast Asian countries. Maybe it needs further more tweaking to achieve product market fit in markets like Japan or Australia or China. So solutions that localize Shopify in a certain country are also very valuable on the App Store. So I would categorize all of these tech companies to focus either on a specific vertical or on a function or on a certain region, and then go hard on the product market fit side of things.
Great. A quick tactical question on the Shopify App Store. How does the sort of typical economics work there? Is it like, somewhat like the Apple, iTunes App Store, or Google Play Store kind of stuff, or is it a little bit different?
It's very similar. So it's at a 80/20 commercial model. So whatever revenue the partner earns through the App Store, 20% is taken by Shopify's commission, and the rest 80% is the partner's money.
Understood. Understood. Um, Just one more quick question along this thread, right? We talked about Singapore, you talked about other countries as well. How big is cross-border commerce, right? Particularly, again, since you're based in South Asia and in particular in India, from an India outbound perspective, has that taken off, or how is that looking with respect to the data that you've seen over the last, 6 years, 5, 6 years?
Cross-border commerce has been a very fascinating concept for Shopify over the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, one of our missions today is to connect every merchant in the world with every buyer in the world. But cross-border commerce comes with its own complexities, especially in logistics. So we are a technology company. We are first solving the problems at a technology level when it comes to cross-border commerce. So that's part one. What has really already picked up is the concept of drop shipping, which is again cross-border largely today. We have seen a lot of merchants from India or in Southeast Asia pick up products from China and sell it directly into the US and European countries. So Shopify actually acquired a company called Oberlo some years back. It's a Lithuanian company. Oberlo has tie-ups with suppliers in China. So anyone in Asia or Europe can pick up products from suppliers in China and then sell it into the US. So and just put a profit margin and make money off it. So they don't even have to hold inventory, which makes it really simple for anyone to start a business and understand, let's say, how e-commerce works just by testing waters through drop shipping. So drop shipping as a cross-border concept has really picked up, but overall, I think direct to consumer brands so let's take the example of some brands in India. We've seen. I won't take names, but we've seen so many brands in India who are doing remarkably well domestically, but are just not very confident when it comes to selling internationally. And I think those are problems that we need to solve as an ecosystem. And there's a large part that logistics companies also need to play, to make it simpler for merchants to understand compliance, rules around customs, tax duties, etc. So I think there's more that can be done. We come up with content and playbooks to help merchants do cross-border commerce, but I think there's more to be done there from all of us.
Awesome. Very interesting. I want to switch gears now as we kind of come towards the end of this podcast and talk about, the storied culture at Shopify, right? I think you guys were one of the first companies to, I think, if I'm not mistaken, allow employees to work from home forever. And you even had like a fancy office in Ottawa in Canada and so forth. So maybe just talk to us a little bit more about just the overall culture, the value system, how you guys operate internally at Shopify.
Yeah, I think so. When I worked at Google in the US, I thought that was the best office that I would ever see. But then I saw the Shopify office in Ottawa, and I went nuts, right? So it was amazing, and it's I mean, while most of us are quite excited about this work from home forever kind of thing, I personally also miss our rocket ship. The home mothership in Ottawa. The office was absolutely stunning. I think the culture at Shopify is a lot about thriving on change. Being absolutely okay with ambiguity, because we strongly believe that if we took a decision yesterday and today, if we get more information, and that means that decision that we took yesterday needs to change, we'll go ahead and do it. And if that means taking pivoting multiple times in a year, we'll still do it. And I think people are so strongly connected with the purpose of why we are at Shopify, which is helping small businesses succeed, that operational challenges such as, like reorgs, or, bosses changing frequently, or business units, going through a complete revamp. All of these operational things become very minute things for us. So culturally, we are very dedicated to the cause of helping small businesses. And our president Harley Finkelstein often calls us the world's biggest startup, because we've got all the startup values of acting like an owner, or thriving on change, and making great decisions quickly, and being a constant learner. So these are things that really make are like the pillars for us at Shopify.
It is very interesting that you also worked at Google, and as did I. Are there tactical things that people can do? And again, I'm asking this on behalf of the larger entrepreneurial community, to drive culture. I'm pretty sure every entrepreneur believes that culture is really important, but you also got food and shelter issues, and digital marketing, and logistics, and payments, and whatever. So how do you, on a tactical basis? I remember the TGIFs in Mountain View in California that one of Eric, Larry, or Sergey would always attend, and so forth. Are there tactical things that are done to reinforce these behaviors of thriving on ambiguity, or being a learning machine, or so acting like an owner?
I think culture is the bottom up side of culture is as important as the top down side of things. So culture is not always driven top down. So it's not that the CEO sets an example and the entire company follows it. Yes, that's true, but it's equally important for somebody who is even let's say a small individual contributor in a certain team, also to equally exemplify the culture of the particular company. And it largely starts with hiring. I think if the hiring is in place, and if the talent teams are able to spot talent which believes in the mission and vision of the company, I think half the journey is done there. I think for creating a great culture, it a the hiring needs to be great. B, we need to create an environment for people to express their opinions openly, and be confident in what they think, and most importantly, care about the problems that they're looking to solve, and deeply invest their time and energy in it, and solve those problems. I think those things go on to make great culture in the company. Large companies can often have very process oriented structures, and it can become difficult to move fast. But I think if small teams inside the company can act like pirate ships, it's possible to move fast, and it is possible to break things and learn, and then build better things. So yeah, these are, I think, some values, but I think this largely starts with hiring, and then creating an ambience for people to thrive.
Wonderful. So, as my last question, I was reading the 5 trends in your future of e-commerce kind of study that you guys have started across your million merchants, and one of those trends was that physical businesses are also going to evolve, right? And in the VC parlance, we're often calling them phygital, physical plus digital businesses. So, any predictions from you on just that sort of trend, either in India or even more globally? What are some of the things you think will happen in the physical and digital worlds coming together?
Yeah, I mean, post COVID, the physical world of retail has completely changed, and we don't see it going back to what it was before COVID. Not anytime soon, at least not for this decade, according to me. I think e commerce is going to play a massive role in getting these brands to sell online. Honestly speaking, e-commerce before COVID, e-commerce was one of the channels for a big retailer, and probably not the highly prioritized one. The prioritized ones would always be their malls or their big showrooms. But post COVID, we saw most of those businesses focus completely entirely online, and putting in all their marketing dollars to scale their online business. So I see this trend to continue, and businesses which are not able to get online still are it's are getting into a very dangerous spot. And I would urge businesses who are doing well in physical retail to also immediately start online retail. And it I think one thing that I've seen enterprises often struggle with is that they want a picture perfect scenario immediately when they want to start online. And the truth of it is that doesn't matter, and they shouldn't be thinking of being perfect right on day one. I think this is a trial and error and an evolving process, to transform and to transform digitally and become successful in the internet world. I think internet has disrupted how retail has worked in the past. I think a lot of our merchants, big merchants today, have legacy thoughts of selling through distributors, big distributors, who have those customers already there. But moving from that ideology to you know to a direct to consumer kind of an outlook takes time. The ones who are able to do it fast are the ones who are succeeding. The ones who are struggling to change are the ones who are going to face problems. So my request to those who are looking to go digital but haven't been able to yet is hire the right people. Don't think of a picture perfect scenario. Start and then evolve as you go.
Thank you so much, Vargab. This has been great. Lots of interesting insights from DIFM to your flywheel at Shopify to going digital right away. Thanks again, Vargab. I'm signing off. This is Amit Somani with Prime Venture Partners, and it was great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Amit. Great being here.
Dear listeners, thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast app for free, and you'll be the first one to know when new episodes are available. Just search for Prime Venture Partners podcast in Apple Podcast, Spotify, Castbox, or however you get your podcasts. Then hit subscribe. And if you have enjoyed the show, we would be really grateful if you leave us a review on Apple Podcast. To read the full transcript, find the link in the show notes.